Live on WFLA Now, this is Hey JB. Here's JB Buno.
A 7-year-old girl is reported missing to police on Friday, but it comes 2 years after she was last seen in a small New Hampshire town. Authorities now pleading with the public, including here on social media, to help share out pictures of missing 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. Hey there, everybody. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. Great to be joined here by News Nation correspondent Marky Martin, who you saw last night on News Nation, talking about missing 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. She hasn't been seen in more than 2 years, but this is a story that was just put on the police radar, so to speak, this past week, this past Friday. These pictures showing her at the age of 5 years old, but she's now 7. She hasn't been seen since October of 2019, and we're all just praying that she's alive. Police, Marky, at a major disadvantage, though, with this case. You and I know from covering missing people in this country, missing children, that if someone goes missing for 24, 48 hours, it can be very difficult to track them down after that amount of time elapsing. This is a girl who hasn't been seen in more than 2 years, making this an enormous hurdle for police to try to track down where she is. What do we know about this story, and what did we find out yesterday? There was a press conference in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yeah. Hey, JB, thanks for having me. This case is just surrounded and saturated by so many questions, way more questions than there are answers. But yeah, you're right. Harmony Montgomery, who's now 7 years old, she hasn't been seen in 2 years, but all of this, her story, her disappearance, just put on the radar last week for police there in Manchester, New Hampshire. And you see on your screen here, you know, the police chief taking to that lectern with her photo. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of information that they could divulge or share just yet. There's a lot of, I think, issues when it comes to confidentiality, and they too have a lot of questions that they don't know. So you could hear the reporters in the back of that room peppering them with their biggest concerns, their top questions, and a lot of it they just couldn't answer at the time yesterday. But you see in these photos, she is so sweet. It's, you know, you can't even stand to think about, you know, nobody knowing where she is or what kind of predicament she might be in. But all of this kind of came to light. An email was sent to the mayor's office there in Manchester, details of which haven't really been shared. It was apparently a very vague email that expressed concern about Harmony in some capacity or another. And JB, that email was then forwarded on to Manchester Police, and then, you know, they've launched into this full-blown search for Harmony now.
We've activated Share to Help here on the bottom of your screen on WFLA Now. And this is what we do on social media when we're talking about someone who has gone missing. You can make a really big difference. And as we were noting, this is a story that affects all corners of the country and really beyond, Marky, because we're dealing with a child that hasn't been seen now in 2 years. Think about that. She would have been, at 5 years old, she would have been in kindergarten at the time of her disappearance. Now she would be in 2nd grade. So these pictures going back 2 years to presumably a lot of these pictures going back to 2019. We've also added the phone tip line in the top right-hand portion of your screen. You can see 603-203-6060. When we say that Harmony Montgomery could be anywhere, we mean it. She could be anywhere. So sometimes, Marky, when we cover stories of a missing child, we hear about the child going missing where, let's say, where I am in Florida, or where you are in Dallas, and it's a region-based approach. With this story, it really is just about anywhere Harmony Montgomery could be, and that's why Manchester Police yesterday putting out this plea to the public, trying to get some shares on social media, trying to spread out word about this story, and they call this a rescue operation right now, not a recovery operation. They say this is a rescue operation. We can hope, only hope, that of course Harmony Montgomery is found alive.
Yeah, and JB, they said they have no reason to believe yet that she is not alive. So until they learn otherwise, or new information contradicts that, this is a rescue mission. They are operating under the assumption that Harmony Montgomery is still alive. And you bring up the 2 years, which, yes, is such a long time, and a totally separate, conversation, how a child goes off the radar or goes unaccounted for that amount of time. But the good part of 2 years, from 5 to 7 years old, the police was pointed out is that she hasn't physically changed all that much. The pictures that you're seeing now will be what she looks like if you, talking to viewers here, if you come across her in your community, she'll still look pretty similar to these photos. And they bring up the glasses being a part that they really want folks to hone in on. And that's why they're showing so many of these photos. Harmony is blind in her right eye. So she has vision issues. And so when you see her, she'll either have glasses or you'll probably be able to tell that she's having some sort of vision impairment. But yeah, it's been 2 years, and a lot of folks saying too, well, okay, what about the parents? It's kind of been a he said, she said kind of a story. We do know Harmony spent a good portion of her early childhood in foster care, and then eventually was released back to her biological parents. And the mother apparently is saying, Harmony's been with her dad for the last couple of years. I've been trying to reach out, haven't had luck. So at this point, we don't know who she's supposed to be with. Police even saying yesterday in that press conference, we're not even going to tell you who she was supposed to be living with, but we can tell you the people that we would think she was supposed to be living with, she is not with them. So to me, that says, she's not with mom and she's not with dad right now. We certainly know she's not with mom. Mom's taken to social media saying that, it's her greatest wish to find her daughter. But JB, there's so much that we have yet to learn.
Again, being joined here by News Nation correspondent Marquis Martin, who you saw last night on News Nation talking about and reporting on 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. We're going to continue to play these images here in the center of your screen, all encouraging you share to help. That hashtag share to help on social media, trying to get this word spread into every corner of the country, hoping that police can get some help. The tip line there in the top right-hand portion of your screen, 603-203-6060. What we do here on WFLA Now on hashtag HeyJB is we feature your hashtag HeyJB comments. And we're going to start to do that here now. And again, file in your if you want how this works, and I want to explain this to people, for people who have never been with us here before in WFLA Now. If you use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyMarky with your comment across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, we can animate your comment on screen. You probably have a lot of questions about this story. Marky and I certainly have a lot of questions about this story as well. If you want your comment to be animated with your picture and your profile, your profile name and your profile picture on screen, use the hashtag and we'll feature your comment. Otherwise, if you don't want your comment to be featured on screen, just don't use the hashtag and we'll let your comment continuously scroll on by. But you were talking about some of the family's social media activities. We wait for these hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyMarky comments to come in. Marky, what do we know about the family's social media activity? You reported on it last night on News Nation.
Well, really, we do know that the biological mom took to Facebook and just said, my daughter's missing. We have to find her. She's been with her dad. And that's really all I know. I actually tried to look at the mom's Facebook account today, and it has gone private. So there wasn't much more that I gleaned from looking at her page earlier this morning before I hopped on with you. That's all I know about social media in terms of the family. I do also know there is an uncle who is talking out too. And JB, you know as well as I do, the internet sleuths that are working hard on all of these cases, I mean, this is gaining traction. And actually the uncle hopped on to a live interview and also did a couple interviews with some publishers, some newspapers, saying he worried about Harmony's safety for years. And the last time that he saw her was in 2019. It sounds like the family had some sort of a fight. And he said, quote unquote, to somebody else he had spoken to, that she looked like a scared puppy. I mean, word for word what he said. And so he said the family for years has been worried. And he claims that a few times people have reached out to local police, but it wasn't until last week that those concerns were actually taken seriously. And JB, the other thing that I want to point out, Harmony has yet to get an Amber Alert in this case, which takes me back to, and where a lot of these families are just maddened by, depending on what state your child goes missing in, he or she gets treated very differently. They get different resources in terms of Amber Alerts. I was in Idaho just a few weeks ago for the Michael Vaughn case. He's been missing since July, has not gotten an Amber Alert. Yet here in Texas, Lena Keel, who's been missing from San Antonio since December 20th, has gotten 13. Harmony hasn't gotten one. And so you hear the frustration from these families that there's no continuity when it comes to small children getting that Amber Alert issue. And authorities there say they just don't have enough information. They don't know who to tell folks to be on the lookout for, what kind of vehicle Harmony Montgomery might be in. And also in New Hampshire, the guidelines for Amber Alerts direct police to only issue that when they know that an abduction has taken place. And they just don't have that information yet.
There have been countless families that have been calling for improvements to the Amber Alert system. And I think, Marky, you hit on the word. The word that comes to mind when it comes to improving the Amber Alert system is continuity, and there being some consistency with how Amber Alerts are administered. Yeah. So much policy that goes into that. Folks, if you see me looking down here in the bottom right-hand portion of your, or actually bottom right or left-hand portion of your screen, it's because I'm reading through your comments, and a lot of comments that are coming in. If you want to read more about this story, you can click on the link on this Facebook post, on this YouTube live, wherever you're watching from. There's a link where you can read the very latest with what we have, including a reward that has been put out for Harmony Montgomery. And I understand that that's also some community members coming forward. I think the reward amount is about $12,500, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's $12,500. A couple of local businessmen in that area actually each stepped up $5,000 a piece. And then there's another $2,500 that's also been raised as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there is also now a separate GoFundMe account that's raising more on the side. So, I mean, the pot's now at $12,500, but this is just counting and growing by the day, especially as her case kind of catches fire and starts to get a lot more eyeballs every single day.
I think this story is really starting to gain traction, especially since the press conference that took place in Manchester, New Hampshire yesterday. And you heard the police chief there, and I have his name here, police chief, or I thought I had it in my notes, but the police chief getting choked up during the press conference, wanting there to be a happy ending to the story. We put off the comments for long enough. Let's get to some of the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyMarky comments that are coming in. David Cooperrider, hashtag HeyJB, why did they wait so long to report it? Bobby Richardson, hashtag HeyJB, 2 years to report it. I think that the big thing that people hone in on with this story, Marky, is that 2 years is an extraordinarily long amount of time for anyone to be missing, let alone a child, 5 years old, 7 years old now. So do we know exactly how close this was to becoming 3, 4, 5 years? It's scary to think about the fact that this much time has elapsed, and you're wondering if this never received any attention, how long would this have gone on before somebody said, where exactly is Harmony Montgomery?
It's such a good question, JB, and unfortunately, it's one that nobody, police chief included, nobody has the answer to. But yeah, 2 years for a child who was 5 years old at the time, just helpless, needs parents, needs medical care. Clearly, she has eye issues, and the thought of her not receiving that kind of care for the past couple of years, and who else, who knows what else has happened to her. It's agonizing. It's agonizing to think about. And the police chief yesterday was asked that very question. How was it 2 years? How does a school, a doctor's office, the government, how does somebody not pick up on, we haven't seen or heard from Harmony or her parents or her family in a long time. And the police chief was asked that question, how was it 2 years? And he said, unfortunately, I don't know. That's something that we are working to get to the bottom of as well. But again, there are so many questions and a child that needs help and time is of the essence. Like you mentioned right off the top, JB, like those first couple of days are crucial. And now we're talking about the first couple of years. And unfortunately, the more time that goes by, you kind of start to lose a little bit of hope. But they are operating under the assumption that she is still alive.
Yeah, and of course, activating Share to Help. You see on the bottom of your screen here on WFLNL, we're constantly engaging a new digital audience here, news feeds, you know how they work. People find us, so If you're just joining us, again, activating share to help for 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. You can see Heather Brand's comment, #HeyJB, 2 years. Who was responsible for her when she disappeared? Was she with her parents or another family member? Who reported her missing? And then Jill Ryder here as well on Facebook, #HeyJB, who reported her missing and why now? What do we say to this comment here from Jill, Marky?
The police chief, hey Jill, thanks to everybody for sending in these questions, but the police chief, again, I hate to sound like a broken record here, but it's kind of how the press conference went yesterday. The police chief was asked that question, who called her in? Who initially last week raised the red flag that something was wrong? And that is something that they did not answer. And as I mentioned, that email, that initial email of concern and worry came into the mayor's office. I'm not even sure yet. It wasn't even confirmed if we know who, if city officials even know who sent that email, if it was from, a burner account of sorts, or if it was somebody who identified themselves and was a credible source and had, validity in bringing forth that Harmony might be in danger. We simply just don't know. But according to an uncle, there were family members that had been concerned for her well-being and her safety for a while.
And so I want to go back to Heather's comment for a second and kind of leave this one on screen as we talk about this, because I want to point out something that's glaringly obvious with this story, Marky, in that even if there was some sort of custody confusion, even if Harmony was with a father, let's just say, based on what we know with the story, with a father or with a family member, a child, a 5-year-old, to not be with their mother for a period. If I don't see my mother for a couple of months, she starts to miss me. So there's this association with the story where moms are thinking to themselves, if I haven't seen my child for 2 hours, let alone 2 years, I'm having a panic attack and freaking out. So the question is, where was the panic attack on behalf of the family? Because going 2 years without seeing a 5, 6, 7-year-old girl is an absurd, insane amount of time to have elapsed.
I will preface my response with, I think you and I are very blessed to have families. I think the people who are having that same thought that you just voiced are very blessed to have been born into loving families who care and provide. And again, I will say I don't know anything, specifics about biological parents in this case, and I certainly don't want to assume, but you do bring up a good point that most parents, even if separated, divorced, one has full custody. I mean, most parents do know what is going on with their child, even if they live in different places. So something is not adding up here. Somebody out there knows something, isn't coming forward, not telling the truth. And actually, JB, I'm sure you saw it yesterday, the police chief in that press conference, at one point kind of took that law enforcement tactic, right, where he kind of like deadpans the camera almost in that audience and calls out whoever's watching who knows what's happened to her. And he started to get teary. And then he started to get angry. You could see this transition, this shift of emotions for this police chief, because in a town like that, a case like this doesn't happen often. And so he directly called out the person or all the people who know what has happened to her and they're not coming forward. And he's trying to guilt them into coming forward because they need to.
It's glaringly obvious to you and myself that police obviously know more about the story than what they are releasing to the public, as you will commonly see. And the reason for that is because the the mission at hand is to find Harmony, let alone of the circumstances of how we got to this point. The number one goal and concern for police right now is to find Harmony alive. And all of the minutia, if you will, of how we got to this point in police's estimation is secondary to what we have is as this urgent search for a missing young girl. You see the tip line, top right-hand portion of your screen, 603-203-6060. WFLA News Channel 8 live with News Nation's Marky Martin. A comment just came in from YouTube, Joseph Morris on YouTube. Hashtag HJB, I heard Harmony was with her dad. Has this been looked into? And you would, of course, every family member, Marky, right now, under the microscope with a story of this magnitude, trying to find little Harmony Montgomery.
Yeah, and to Joseph Morris, I'm reading his comment right here on the screen. Harmony's biological mom has said on Facebook that Harmony was with the dad. However, I will say, and I'll add that police have not cleared anybody. Neither parent has been cleared in this case, nor did they confirm yesterday who Harmony should have been with. But they did say all the people that they would think she had been with, she was not with them. So to me, that says she's not with mom and she's not with dad. But so far, the mom has said that, for a couple years, Harmony was with her father. And I've tried to reach out and no luck. And that's kind of all we know, JB.
Yeah, and back to what you were talking about a few moments ago, that Marky, you and I blessed to have mothers that would freak out if they hadn't seen from us, and that
to the ends of the earth for.
Yeah, I mean,
without ceasing.
It just having a complete panic attack. But I think that this story with missing children in this country, I think that what happens is that there are so many other problems that emerge, problems that occur within households across our country that kind of intersect with missing persons cases, and we might find out more about what happened leading up to Montgomery going missing for a period of more than 2 years. We might find out more as the story continues to kind of unfold in the days and weeks ahead. Marky Martin of News Nation here with us. We have about another 10 minutes or so, folks. So it's the last call for your hashtag Hey Marky, hashtag Hey JB comments here on social media. This is you brought this up earlier, Marky, and it's on the minds of our commenters as well. Tonya Brown, hashtag Hey JB. Did the schools report her absence? At being 5 years old, you would think that Harmony would be enrolled as a kindergartner, of course, and then first grade and second grade. So then her not appearing in school, that's another wrinkle to this story.
And Tanya, thanks for that question. I have wondered that question since the second Harmony story came on my radar. The schools, the doctors, I mean, where are they? And we don't know that for certain. At least I do not know whether schools came forward. My kind of, if I do a gut check, and my gut guess is that a parent maybe unenrolled her and that school thought she was moving on somewhere else, and she was never enrolled in a new school. And now you don't have a new school looking for her. The old one thinks she's taken care of. That is my guess as to what has happened, just based on nobody really knowing, parents included, where she is. But that is not something that we have confirmed information on. If a particular district said, hey, where's Harmony? I do not know that at this time.
We'll kind of go rapid fire because we got a lot of comments and questions to get to before Marky's got to get ready for, of course, News Nation tonight. If you haven't heard News Nation, folks, great partner with WFLA and our basically our network with Nexstar, and give them a watch. Find, of course, the channel on your local listings. Let's get to this one from Evie, hashtag Hey JB. Are the parents being held in police custody? And this is, of course, a question from social media, but the parents haven't been charged with a crime, and so they're not being held in police custody. We're talking about the parents of a missing 7-year-old girl. There is, of course, the charge of endangering the welfare of a child, but there's nothing that police at least have at this time, Marky, that we know about that they endangered the welfare of a child knowingly and or even unknowingly. So there's no crime component to this. It's really just focused on finding Harmony wherever she may be.
And that's what the police chief kept saying yesterday. He was like, I have to keep on telling you, there are a lot of questions I can't answer. I can't delve into that part of the investigation just yet. But yes, JB, you're right. The main focus right now for Manchester Police is to just gather any and all information. And they even said to folks, even if you think you saw her 2 years ago at a restaurant, you need to call with that information. And you probably have a lot of folks who might have had encounters with her, but say, oh, that was, that was years ago. How would that help? They want every tidbit of information to come forward. As of right now, they didn't even say anything about the parents' whereabouts. I will say the uncle came forward and says that allegedly the mom came forward for a polygraph test. That is from the uncle. That is not from the police, but they wouldn't confirm any family member that they've even talked to, JB. They said, we won't even tell you which family members we've spoken to for the investigation. I can also tell you this past weekend, they actually went and visited and kind of looked through and searched an old family home that was connected to the Montgomerys. As far as I know, they didn't say anything was found there, but the current homeowner is cleared, has nothing to do with this case. But it is a stone that they kind of tried to unturn yesterday.
I remember from my notes in the press conference, I believe it's a team of, and I'll make sure I have this right, roughly 30 to 35 detectives working this case. Yeah. So I would imagine every family member, every stone has been unturned regarding the family. And of course, it says something when you have police coming forward in a press conference in that way and pleading to the public for help. If they thought that she was at a cousin's house, they would have already been at the cousin's house. The fact that they are pleading with the public for help means that they are at that stage in the investigation where they need the public's help to locate, again, missing 7-year-old. Harmony Montgomery phone tip line, top right-hand portion of your screen, 603-203-6060. A few more minutes here, everybody, with Marquis Martin of News Nation. David, copywriter, I think we took this question earlier. Jackie Mala, hashtag HeyJB. 2 years have gone by. Where did the family think that she was? I'll just kind of speed through this question with this response. We're not entirely sure what mix-up occurred and where the family exactly thought that Harmony was for a period of 2 years. Again, an extraordinarily long amount of time. Nicole Blackson on WFLA's YouTube page. We're live on YouTube, and hello. Hope everyone's having a good day there on the WFLA YouTube page. Nicole Blackson on YouTube, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyMarkey. Now is the time to change the Amber Alert requirements. Lead us and let's get action ASAP. You were talking about this earlier, Markey.
For folks who are just now joining, I was making the point with JB earlier that you have a Harmony Montgomery who has been missing for, allegedly 2 years now, but just put on the police radar last week. And she has yet to receive an Amber Alert in this case because officials say they simply don't have enough information. I was in Idaho just a few weeks ago to cover the Michael Vaughn disappearance. He also goes by Monkey. He went missing in July. He has yet to receive an Amber Alert because Idaho police just aren't convinced that there's been an abduction there. Yet you have Lena Keel, who, here in San Antonio, who's been missing since December 20th, just days before Christmas. She's received 13 Amber Alerts. There's no continuity and, for which children get those kinds of resources. And it's odd to say out loud and to think that, if a Harmony Montgomery had gone missing in Texas, she might have 13 Amber Alerts out for her right now. But because she went missing in New Hampshire, she gets treated differently. And I asked one of our brilliant FBI analysts, Jennifer Koffendorfer, JB, you might have even spoken to Jennifer before here on your show.
Yeah, through the Twitterverse as well, of course. Yep.
Yeah. And I asked her, I said, what's the deal? Why is that? You have to explain this to me, why different children are treated differently. And she said, she doesn't fully understand either, but each state just has different guidelines. They don't want every Amber Alert that goes out to be the boy who cried wolf. Yep. They want these Amber Alerts to be special and have, concrete facts, information, vehicle, descriptions for people to be on the lookout for. And apparently, according to New Hampshire, this is just a case that they don't have that kind of info for yet. But the question to me, even if you don't have info, to blast her photo out to people across the country, we all get push alerts every day. We get 10 push alerts a day from ESPN or, name somewhere else that you get push alerts from. I don't think people would be upset to get a photo of a missing child, even if you don't have a lot of information to go with it.
And the media, of course, is relied upon in a lot of instances where, depending on state policy, if there is a time when you can't issue an Amber Alert, yes, the media is relied upon, but we can only do so much. Social media, and this is kind of where I come in, Marky. Social media has really, rapidly developed, especially over the last decade, in the ability for us to help out. News organizations with wide-ranging reaches via their social media audience, we can, of course, help. That's what we're doing here for 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. And geographically, for those of you unfamiliar with where Manchester, New Hampshire, of course, it's north of really Boston. A lot of Boston television stations have been covering this story as well. So we're doing our part to help out here in Nexstar Nation and WFLA Now and News Nation, of course, News Nation's Marky Martin. Just a few more minutes before we have to get going. I want to get through the final 3 comments that we have in the queue. Cindy Lee France, #HeyJB. How do you not see your child for 2 years? Even if the dad did have her, why didn't the mom call and check on her? Makes no sense. According to Cindy, we'll go to Tina's comment. #HeyJB. Look, my grandchildren live in Massachusetts. Even not everyone being back in school or at work, people know where their children are. This is ridiculous. I feel so horrible for this child. And we'll get the last one here from Felicia and #HeyJB. You're exactly correct. As a mom of a 17-year-old, there is zero chance that I would go even 10 hours without speaking with my baby, especially at 5 years old. There's just this disbelief that has settled in with this story, and we'll continue, of course, our respective stations and our respective organizations, Marky and myself, will continue to follow up on any new developments, but doing our part here with the help of you, wherever you're watching from. This is a story that with a girl missing for 2 years, when we say that she could be anywhere, again, we said this at the beginning, she could be anywhere. California, Alaska, Hawaii, be out of the country. There's literally nowhere that Harmony Montgomery could not be at this time after being gone since October of 2019. So please, spreading the map, spreading this out across the map, so to speak, doing our part and trying to get the shares, retweets, all the social media distribution that we can, trying to do our part here. Marky, before we let you go, big thanks for joining us here on WFLA Now. What are you going to be watching for in the hours and days ahead on this story?
Yeah, it was a pleasure to join you. Unfortunately, not a fun story to be talking about. I just think, kind of final thoughts here. In terms of information gathering, it can only really go up from here, right? I mean, yesterday was that first press conference, and a lot of us left unsatisfied. And, not to blame the police or anything, because they have to keep a lot of things close to the chest right now. And you certainly understand all the work that they have ahead of them. But I think in the days to come, people are going to want to know a lot more information about the mother and the father. One of the viewers earlier asked about, where was she in school? Why weren't they looking for them? There's going to be a lot of things that are going to perk our ears up in the days to come. And there's a lot of missing pieces to the puzzle. And again, if anybody has information, to please call Manchester Police, that hotline that you have, or, JB, you and I get so many tips on social media, questions to ask that we may not even have thought of in the first place, or people who are from that area who are familiar with the geography, the politics of how those places work, and they put those kinds of things on our radar. Send us a DM, we see most of those as well. But JB, I would love for my team to eventually go to New Hampshire and look into this a bit more thoroughly. I've had COVID for the past couple weeks, so yesterday I broke out of quarantine and we're ready to travel again. So hopefully New Hampshire's on the docket. Yeah,
and really hoping that you feel better, Marky. The stream might end here, as Marky's alluding to. The stream might end here, but the conversation doesn't. At Marky Martin on, right, isn't that your social media handle, Marky? At Marky Martin?
Marky Martin.
Yep, at WFLA-JB. We'll continue to talk about this story. And again, follow what is occurring with Manchester Police out of Manchester, New Hampshire. Continuously follow any threads of information, any updates that come from authorities. But again, this is a plea to the public for help, especially here on social media, to get the share count, the retweet count up as high as possible in the hope that Manchester Police and the family of seven-year-old, my goodness, Harmony Montgomery. Yeah, brought up notes from another story that we were about to transition to. 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery. Anything that you can do to share out this information and share out these images. Hopefully somebody has seen her in the last 2 years. You can do your part, but we're going to continue to do our part here on social media at Marky Martin, at WFLA-JB on social media. So you can click on the link in the description of this video. It'll take you over to WFLA.com or your respective sister station's link, your television station's link, where you can read the very latest on this story. But for now, I'd like to thank Marky Martin for joining us here on WFLA Now. I'm JB. We'll see you next time, everybody, on WFLA Now.